welcome back to the garage. This week I decided going to start our mini-series on garage work because I have to do it. It's got to get done, and if I don't film it, I just won't be able to bring you guys any content for a while. So I figured I'd take you guys along, and if somebody learned something, then excellent, I've helped someone out somewhere. So I know it's not what we usually do on the channel, but we're going to take a bit of a detour and do a few different builds out in the garage here. What we're going to do today is a ceiling mounted shelf behind me. I've already kind of gotten started on it. Okay, so I've got the sort of plans here. Off in this far corner here, you can see the shelving that I've already built, and didn't film, but I'm going to go ahead and film the build of this guy. It's going to hang down this bottom edge here to about 22 inches, and then give me about, I think 18.5 inches of storage clearance here. So I'll be putting big things, long things up here, maybe a ladder or two, maybe my miter saw I'll store up here. I do have plans on picking up a table saw because I'm tired of not having one. And then building a table saw outfeed table and miter saw table. And putting those, let me zoom back here, on a workbench, second workbench that I'm going to build, that whole table. And it's going to have folding legs instead of fixed ones like this. And I plan on sort of mounting it to the ceiling here. I've got about 22 inches of clearance, so I can do a fair bit here. I'm going to winch it up to the ceiling and put a winch and pulley system up in the attic. So that's going to be my favorite build to do, but it's a fair ways off. For today, we're going to start with this guy. What I'm going to be doing first is running 4x4 braces in the attic between the joists that I will be bolting the 2x4s to, the 2x4s to secure the shelf to the ceiling. Alright guys, I've got the cross joist finally in the attic. It's been a while up there doing that. I'll take the camera up there in a minute and show you what it looks like. I've asked the wife to come in and give me a hand on the ladder to help place this beam underneath the cross joist, screw those temporarily to the cross joist through the sheetrock, and then show you really in detail what the, and I'll show you how that looks. Okay, I realize it's not super great an angle, but I guess since we're here, these are the 4x4s that I was talking about in the attic. The 4x4s in between the joists, in between the ceiling joists here. So that's what I'm going to be bolting into there. And this is what I'm going to be doing as far as joints go. Here, so I got to put a cut in here, and then I'm going to be putting a cut in here. It'll be a little bit more obvious when I actually make the cuts. So it'll be a little bit more of a mechanical lock, and I'll be using glue in addition to the 3-inch lag screws to fix that into place. Okay, as I mentioned, the next step for me will be to drill the holes through the pre-drilled holes here into the joists in the attic. So I'll go ahead and speed this up and get it done. Alright guys, we got the bolts run through from the attic. I just got back from a trip up there. There's 6 bolts in there. They're not holding it up yet. The screws are still in here. I'm going to now take the boards down, now that I have the bolt holes in place, and start working on the joints. Alright guys, I've got the, depending on the direction you're looking at it, the right hand side support brace in place. It's bolted in place, not tightly yet. I got to go up in the attic and tighten it down while I have someone down here hold it in position. The thing I spent the last maybe 40 minutes working on is this cut out here, and then an equal, sort of exactly the same thing at the opposite end. There. I've got, you can see it's dark out already, so I'm going to call it a day here. It is Christmas Eve. I'll take, obviously, tomorrow off. Being 2020, we're not doing anything. But, I'll probably come back on Saturday morning and get that one finished off and start building the rest of this. Alright guys, it's a new day. Day after Christmas now. I've got the board over there notched out. I'm going to set up outside, put you guys out there on a time lapse, and get this board notched out with my miter saw. So it occurred to me that I might want to explain what I'm doing exactly with the miter saw here. Not sure if you've ever used a miter saw to cut these joint type sort of indentations here. Basically, you just set the bottom stop on the miter saw and basically take out the width of the blade each pass and then come through with a sander and smooth it up. This is the joint no one's really going to see, and it's also going to be painted, so I'm not very concerned about these tiny little ridges the saw leaves behind. If I was, I'd clean it up with a chisel or some sanders, like an orbital sander. But this is not something I need to spend hours on getting super perfect. I just want to have a surface for the 2x4 that I'm going to be putting in here to strut down, to glue up to and screw into, keep it a little bit more structurally solid. So I'm going to go ahead and put this piece up and get moving on the rest of this. One thing I just noticed that I didn't consider was that the garage door actually comes up above the track when it's on it. So it looks like, it's a good 2.5 inches over the height of the track. So that will eat into the shelf clearance a bit. So I got to make it shorter than I originally planned, but it will still work for holding a lot of things. And I'm glad I cut it now instead of after I cut the pieces to size and do all the work on that. So I'm going to tighten up. This guy here. There's a bit of a effort to get the bolts through because there's nothing keeping them, from going back into the attic. So I had to kind of grab them with some pliers and wrench them through. But got them on, so I'll tighten that up, make sure the boards are parallel, and then start cutting the pieces that will come vertically down to support the shelf next. Alright, since we've last spoken, gotten these guys aligned so they're 60.5 inches apart from the inside edge. And I've gotten all 4 of these guys grooved to meet up with the grooves on there. I apologize for the noise, the washer's going. So what we're going to do is glue and screw all 4 of these guys to those guys. Let's get started. All the glue is doing its job. Once it sets up, it'll be a really strong joint. the issue I have, and it was an issue I didn't even know existed until I put these posts, these 4 stringers here on, and some of them are varying degrees more than others, but I don't know if you can see it from this angle. The post, zoom in on that guy, the post coming down here is at an angle. It's like a 15-degree angle where the bottom is to the right and the top is to the left. And I think the back one as well. And then these guys are also here and there, but to a much lesser degree. I believe that is something to do with the slope in the ceiling. The sheetrock is not perfectly flat, and I think potentially, I don't think there's any board warp, because when I was cutting these joints, I was cutting them completely vertical. So I don't think that's the issue. I think it really is just a issue with the sheetrock. So I'm gonna have to cut some shims commensurate with the angle I'm off of level, and then flush this out. Once I get that done, I'll be back to where I need to be on this build, and I'll start filming with you again. We're looking at the front 2x4. It's, hold on, it's flat there. Sort of move underneath it. I just have this piece here as support while I'm leaving it there. It would fall out otherwise. I'm going to do the 2x4 there. That spans across the back here to there. That's going to be flipped vertically, or I guess so. It's not going to be laid flat like the front one, and same on the sides. It's not going to be laid flat. The shells will just be hung at the bottom, but we'll still get the added rigidity of flipping them vertically. So we'll go ahead and get moving on this and bring you along for the ride. All right, guys. Come on, focus. I gotta get it closer. There we are. I have gotten this one up. Like I said, that one's vertical. The 2 side pieces are going to be vertical as well. I'm going to be using the Craig jig to drill sort of side holes into those, pocket holes into those, and get those attached there. And then we'll proceed with the joists and then the plywood. Alright, we got our boards cut to length. Next step is to drill some pocket holes with the Craig jig, and what we're going to do, this is a real cheap one. If you don't have one or never used it, it's like $15 on Amazon. It fixes the bit in place so you can drill at a 15-degree angle into this guy, and then the screw will sink perfectly up there into that, so we can get real flush edges without having to bother with the joints. I thought about doing joints at the bottom. I decided it wasn't really going to be necessary. Hopefully that's alright, and the pocket holes should work out for us. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and get going on this, so I'll speed it up, and we're going to do 3 pocket holes in each end. So there's going to be one here, one in the middle, and then I'll scoot it over, and one on the bottom. And then same on that end, so a total of 6 pocket holes per board for 2 boards. Okay, I thought I would get the camera mounted up here and show you, if you're new to this, you might be interested, exactly what happens when you have a pocket hole drilled. These are the screws I already started just because I didn't have anyone else to hold the board here, so I started these with a ratchet spanner because I don't have an impact driver, which is also the reason why I'm using this massive drill, which you can't even see in the shot completely, to put these in. So I will probably end up cambering these out somewhat, but it should go in all the way first. So I'm gonna go ahead and use a extension bit. I'm using the Torx bit and a Torx screw as opposed to Phillips, which it's a little bit harder to camber out anyway, so hopefully I won't have that issue. We can just go ahead and get these drilled in. That last one I probably overdid a little bit, but
closed the gap off pretty good. I'll go through and hit the last two again, or the first two again, just to finish this off. There we go. So that's really strong. I already did pull-ups off the other one, so these guys are going to be more than sufficient. I'll go ahead and finish up the 3 on the other end and then show you the finished product. Alright, that second one met the pull-up test as well. Here's the first one all mounted. Starting to look more like a shelf now, and I can kind of get a sense for how much clearance I'll have up here. And then exactly how I'm going to mount everything sort of over on that far end. So I'll go ahead and start mounting the joists. I'm going to lay the 2x3s flat horizontally, so they'll be sort of in line with this guy. And from there, I'm going to do 5 all the way across, so maybe every 18 inches. I'm not sure, I have to verify how wide this ended up being. Alright guys, I did day-to-day in the garage. I didn't film any of it, unfortunately, just because I have some deadlines coming up that I needed to get stuff done. So I just went ahead and cut the plywood to size, and then removed the plywood from this shelf and got it all painted. So we just basically just run some blue paint over it to match the there's the blue paint there to match the shelves here. Got that all put away. So I'm gonna go ahead and wait for this to dry out, put the plywood on there, and then show you the finished product. Alright guys, I've gotten the plywood. I actually used underlayment for this plywood instead of the stuff I had been using for the other shelves. Still 1/2 inch, got it screwed down. Got the ladders I use on top of it. It's not too hard to reach. I can basically just grab the blue black ladder with the black top to get the other one down. You can see it up there. I can store some other things up there. Not sure yet, just nice to have the extra storage. Got everything sort of cleaned up. Next we're going to be focusing on the, as you can see, pegboard, which still needs to be added. I'm either going to do just a normal pegboard or still doing the cost benefit, sort of how is it worth it on the wall control stuff. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, as usual, put them in the comments below. Thanks.